Hi everyone, welcome back to my Elden Ring series where I make a build for every melee weapon in the game. In today's episode, I'll be covering the Carian Knight's Sword. This weapon is a straight sword that requires 10 strength, 10 dexterity, and 18 intelligence to wield, and scales primarily with strength and intelligence. It can be acquired from a chest on a troll carriage in Liurnia of the Lakes. It comes fixed with the Carian Grandeur weapon skill, which summons a chargeable magic sword blade that slices down from above. For this one, I went for a primarily intelligence-based build and decided to really lean into the Carian Grandeur skill. In my opinion, this is the best and most unique part of this weapon. Even though there is an Ash of War version that you can put on other swords, this sword just feels like the weapon it was made for. Unfortunately, to really get the most out of this skill, you need to fully charge it, which takes a very long time, so the situations where you can use it effectively are very limited. You really need a very long attack window, such as a boss phase transition or a stagger, in which case I would even recommend prioritizing using the skill over taking a critical attack if you don't have time for both. The damage is really just that strong. This sword also gets the same unique heavy attack as the Lazuli Glintstone sword, where you block with the sword while charging your attack. I personally didn't really utilize this property as much in my playstyle for this build, but the option is there. In my offhand, I am primarily using a shield, specifically the Carian Knight shield. This is handy because it allows us to block, obviously, but more importantly, it gives us access to guard counters, which can deal significant poise damage to enemies. This is great for getting staggers more often to make windows for using a fully charged Carian Grandeur attack. I also have the Carian Glintstone staff in my second offhand slot, as I will occasionally switch to this to cast spells. You can honestly use any sorceries you want, but I decided to keep it simple and I'm just using Adula's Moonblade, which is one of the sorceries boosted by the Carian Glintstone staff, so that's why I'm using that one. This spell comes in handy for a couple of reasons. First of all, it gives us access to Frostbite, which we can apply at the beginning of tough encounters. Secondly, the horizontal slashes of this spell cover a wide area and travel a pretty good distance. We don't really have any other sources of crowd control damage with just the sword and shield, so that comes in handy for certain areas. For my stats, at level 150, I have 50 vigor, 25 mind, 30 endurance, 34 strength, 10 dexterity, 60 intelligence, and 10 faith in arcane. This is a pretty stat-hungry build, so I was only able to afford the lower end of my preferred vigor range, but I found that to be good enough. We also need a good amount of mind because the Carian Grandeur skill is very expensive at 26 FP, and the Adula's Moonblade spell is not far behind at 22 FP. I found that I used these attacks quite sparingly, however, so it sort of balanced out overall. Endurance is important primarily because we want a large stamina pool to be able to block with our shield and perform guard counters. The Carian Knight shield doesn't have the best guard boost, so if you wanted a more optimal shield, you should consider swapping it out for a great shield. For damage, I invested in a mix of both strength and intelligence in line with the intrinsic scaling of the Carian Knight sword, with a slight bias toward intelligence. This is mainly due to the fact that the Carian Grandeur's skill as a pure magic attack scales only with intelligence rather than any physical damage stats. Additionally, the damage of any spells that we use scale directly with intelligence alone. I think 60 is enough to get respectable spell damage without sacrificing too much melee damage. For my armor, I'm using the helmet, chest armor, and greaves of the Carian Knight set, along with the Spellblade gloves. This seemed like a no-brainer because we're using the Carian Knight sword and shield, and I personally love the look of this armor set. As for the Spellblade gloves, they give us a small boost to the damage of magic-based skills, including this one, and they match pretty well with the rest of our armor. For my talismans, I mostly focused on optimizing our weapon skill, so I have the Shard of Alexander for an outright increase in skill damage, followed by the Godfrey icon, which further boosts our damage when we fully charge the skill. Then I have the Carian Filigreed crest to reduce the high FP cost of using the skill. Finally, I have the Great Shield Talisman to give us better guard boost with our medium shield, allowing us to block more. For my Flask of Wondrous Physic, I'm using the Magic Shrouding Crack tier for more magic damage, and the Green Burst Crystal tier for more stamina regeneration. And that is all for this Carian Knight Sword build video. Here's an overview of my setup. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.